Welcome to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages, with your host, Matthew Shipp. This is the podcast for all of those who are involved in the agriculture all the way to the distribution of beverages. And now your host, Matthew Shipp.
Hello and welcome to Harvest to Pour. I'm your host, Matthew Shipp, and today I am here with Romana Gracanin, a VP Business Relationship Manager from PNC Bank. Now, you're probably wondering, on a show that's about beverage industry, why am I bringing somebody on from a bank? Well, some of my past interviews, a lot of their open challenges, because I do ask the businesses, what are your biggest open challenges? And some of these occurred during the recording. Some of these occurred, a lot of it would come up with, well, I just need to find the money to either buy equipment, to I could scale my company, or when I asked them, what are some of the challenges you overcame? It was finding the financing to even open my business, because it's a brick and mortar business, and finding the right place. So I thought today would be a great time to bring in Romana and have her talk about one of the big loans, not big loans, but main loans a lot of these startup companies go for is these SBA loans. But in order to gather that, you have to have a very strong business plan, and she is a specialist on both of this. So I thought we'd talk about how we can align these SBA loans with a solid business plan and how they talk to each other and lead you to the success of receiving that financing. So how are you doing today, Rana?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
So let us know a little bit about yourself. How did you kind of get started in the banking world, and what led you there?
Well, I started in retail banking nearly 15 years ago, and as a branch manager, I often assisted small business owners, and that's how I developed a real interest and passion for businesses.
All right. So what do other particular businesses, the small businesses you like working with, or is it any size business for the most part?
Oh, so in the space where I'm at PNC, I help in the segment of $1 to $5 million in annual revenue. Mm-hmm. But there's no business too small or too big that the bank can't help, just because of the different segments and areas that we cover. Mm-hmm. And so there's not a specific industry. My portfolio is mixed with anything from manufacturing, healthcare to retail, bars, restaurants, all of it. You name it, all of it. Yep.
And as a business relationship manager, what part are you managing? Are you managing this between the bank and the business, or how's that work?
That's how it's supposed to work. But I'm very hands-on with my clients, and I'm actually really proud to say that. I try to really be an advisor and sit on, like, if you want to call it, I call it an advisory board for my business owner. So as much as they're talking and communicating with their CPA and their attorneys and other people that are going to be really helping them either start up or scale their businesses, or even transition out of their business, I want to be part of that advisory board, and help them align their goals and actually help them get to those goals.
And what are I guess we'll start with some of the startups. What are their real goals when they come to you?
So startups, typically, they have a great vision, and they have in mind exactly what they want to do. It's just a matter of putting it on paper and executing that strategy. That's where I come in.
And that's the business plan, I'm assuming.
Yep.
All right.
Business plan is going to be a key, and along with projections, because as you're starting out, there's nothing historically for us to base the loan or the project, if you will, off of. Mm-hmm. There's no historical numbers, so it's all going to be projection based. So aligning a business plan exactly, we have to paint a picture essentially to underwriters. The underwriter is not there talking to the client. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to know who the key employees are, what the day in and day out is going to look like. Mm-hmm. How are they going to be supplying their stores or getting supplies in? Who are their customer base? Who are their competitors? How are going to differentiate themselves? There's so many key factors. Employee retention is a big thing too, especially during COVID. We've seen a lot of that. So employee retention, especially in restaurant and bar space, is going to be huge, because that can really keep your doors closed. Mm-hmm. You can't service your clients. So it's much more broad than just, hey, I have this idea, I need a loan.
Okay. So you have to actually write how you're going to deal with employee retention into your business plan?
Yeah. And it's not going to be, and I have a template, which I'm very happy to share with everyone, but it's not necessarily like step by step, I am going to be, doing this and that. It's just hey, these are going to be my key employees. This is going to be the managers that's going to be running the day-to-day operation. Also, let me back up real quick. As a business owner, when you're, especially a startup, it's a preference for you to have industry knowledge in the business that you're entering. So that's going to be huge. Your resume, we're going to ask for a resume, has to align with the industry to show that you are an expert in that industry and in the business that you're going to be running. And then that's where we kick in the key employees as well.
Okay. And so is SBA loans only for startups, or is that for just you need a loan to continue your business as well?
It could go either way. So typically where we often suggest and the loans go SBA is if there's a shortfall on collateral. Conventionally, if you can fully collateralize the loan, meaning typically like there's real estate to back it, you've been in the business longer than a couple years, that's when we can look at it conventionally. If you don't have full 100% collateral and you're just starting out, we're going to need that government guarantee to get the loan done.
Is that what you mean by shortfall on collateral?
Yes.
Okay. That's where the SBA comes in and helps aid that, fills that gap.
Yeah. So what SBA does is they give like 7(a) program, for example, they give 75% guarantee to the banks. So the customer, and that's another thing to also think about when you're putting together a business plan is of the project amount. I call it a project amount, but look at it as full picture. Let's say you're borrowing $100,000. 10% comes from the customer. They have to have the 10% down. 75% is guaranteed by the government, and the bank kicks in the rest. So there's not a huge risk to the bank because the government is guaranteeing it. And that kind of helps us with the shortfall difference on the collateral side.
Okay. Let's see. So going for somebody who's wanting to scale, typically what are they coming to you for at this point?
Same way. So it just depends on what they're looking to do. If they're depends on what they mean by scale. If it's a brick and mortar and they're adding like square footage, that's, a totally different program. We can look at it because that business has already been existing. If it's in what we call a mature cycle, it's been around for a while. We can look at doing a conventional financing where we don't have to get that guarantee backing necessarily. If I'm working on another one right now where it's going to be another bar. In addition, this is going to be this person's third SBA loan, which is incredible. Already paid off the 2 that he did. This is going to be the third one. He just continues growing. But by scaling, every time that he does something like this, it's creating a new entity, a new LLC. He is not purchasing the real estate. So again, we have to go the SBA route because there's a shortfall on collateral.
See, okay. I was about to ask why he's paying these off. How can he qualify for an SBA loan if he still doesn't have the shortfall? But apparently he did. And then now, when you're expanding the square footage, you're usually putting stuff in that square footage. So if you're a brewery and you need to expand square footage to expand your product development or the product you're making, does the same loan cover the same expansion all under one umbrella, or do you have to get several different loans for equipment and different loans for square footage?
So again, it really goes back, and I should have started this way. I apologize. It goes back to your relationship with your banker and your bank. If it's a client of mine that's been around for a while and they're a current customer of PNC Bank, it's all relationship based where, we would like to make it as easy as possible, right? So if it's going to be just adding on square footage, you're bringing in new equipment, while we have the financials, let's wrap it up into a one project type of thing. There may be different products that suits that business a little bit better just from like terms and pricing standpoint. And that's where your banker, you really have to have a good, solid banker, relationship manager, whatever you want to call it, to show you the different options. This, as opposed to this, would work better for you. And here's why. This is where it could save you. This is where you could do whatever.
Okay. That's before we move on to the next piece, you just brought up something. If somebody's new and they want to start their business and they need that SBA loan and they're working on the business plan, how do they create that good relationship? The first time you meet somebody, you're feeling each other out. How does that work between a business and a bank?
So I've been there a lot of times where there's a startup coming to me and they have this genius idea, but they just have to put it on paper. So I'll walk through it with them. I'll bring the template to the meeting with me and the projections and sit down and talk about those things and really make them think outside of the box of just the product that they're going to produce. A lot of times business owners, there's so many things that are going on. You know what you're doing in your industry and the product, and the outcome is just putting it on paper for everyone else to kind of have your vision, right? I will also always suggest for startups to connect with nonprofits. For example, SCORE in St. Louis downtown, they're a very good company where they can help people create business plans. Also, personal credit really does matter because you are essentially the face of your business. You're the guarantor. You're going to be the one that's going to be repaying the debt. So there are services in place that we have connections to that I'd be happy to pass the names and contacts along to those startup companies to let them know this is what you need to do and this is the steps that you need to take to get yourself prepared for funding.
Okay. And beyond the business plan, now I've had an example. I'm trying to pull it from an interview I had from another brewery. I won't say it was like a YouTube video about their company that they wanted to create. And then got this into a newspaper and did all of this development before they even laid the first brick. And they didn't have a place yet. And because what they were running into is they told me kind of banks ignoring them, like just didn't see the benefit, didn't see the profit. But once they did that, they landed somebody really great and helped them through the entire process. Yeah. So is there anything else that, anybody in the beverage industry or any business for that matter can do to take that one step further beyond the business plan and really develop that relationship?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to that person individually, just making sure that their credit score is the best that it can possibly be. So even if you know that there might be some blemishes, to correct those ahead of time before you even look at financing, and interview people, really interview accountants, interview bankers, see who you mesh well with, see who is actually going to help you scale it before you even start working on anything. And talk to other people in your industry, other experts that are even competitors, what they've gone through. I mean, honestly, it does make a world of difference what they've gone through, who they connected with, and how did they get where they are. You'd be shocked how many people want to help other people out, even if it is a competitor, because everyone has to start from somewhere. But accountant is going to be very, very important. An attorney as well, just to make sure from a liability standpoint that you are 100% covered and everything is, up to par.
Great piece of advice. That's great. All right, we'll move on to kind of the journey in the beverage industry. I often ask them about their harvest to pour journey, their harvest where they source their ingredients and then create the beverage that's uniquely theirs, and the pours their marketing. What parts along that journey do you often see the business reaching out for help?
Yeah, so technology is actually a big one in all industries across board, just in general. There's just creating efficiencies when it comes to tech-supported functions at play, and how they communicate with each other is going to be really a key.
Okay, technology, and is this getting in like their cash systems or?
Yeah, point of sale is a big, a big thing. Specifically, like, at PNC, we have so many different things on the merchant service. We call the merchant service point of sale side of things, where it could really take out, if you don't have those systems in place, it could really take out your day-to-day, add more time to your day-to-day operations where you're micromanaging and physically doing things on paper. If you don't have if you don't have that technology in place, like I have a restaurant where the system that he uses with us, it auto orders ingredients for him. The system knows when he's low on something.
Okay.
Like down to the gram. Wow.
So the PNC Bank helps instill this, or is it a system that runs through the bank, or how's that work?
Yeah. So this is where your whole relationship with your banker comes in. It's more than just getting the loan. Getting the loan is just, one step, right? Now, what are we going to do once we get the money, and how are we going to implement and put this in place and get the doors open and have customers come in and have everything run smoothly? So as a relationship manager, business banker, they need to be thinking about all aspects of how you're going to run that business efficiently. So with point of sale, that's going to be absolutely huge. From, you could do your employee scheduling on there. It's not just a point of sale. You can do your employee scheduling on there. inventory management, QR ordering, securing payment options, rewarding your customers.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm very frugal personally. So I like to take advantage of the places that I go and shop to make sure I'm getting rewarded. If there's some kind of a reward and loyalty program, I'm going to make that a reoccurring stop for me.
And is this system a collaboration between other companies, or is this proprietary to your bank?
So this is proprietary to our bank. PNC is very, very tech savvy. They've always been on top of their game before I even, started here. Yeah. They bought all these fintech companies out, and so.
It just sounds a lot like Toast and Square, and I didn't know that banks actually had their own. That's what was really interesting.
Yeah, it's absolutely great. And we partner with other vendors, but it all integrates with our system, and it creates efficiencies for our business owners, because not only are you doing all these things, your scheduling, your inventory, all that stuff, and of course point of sale, but it's reconciling with your QuickBooks. So that's one less thing that you have to manually do, or your bookkeeper has to manually do. Okay. It's really creating efficiency, putting time back in your day so you can scale your business and work on other things that are important to you.
So you were the systems, kind of the backstage systems to their harvest to port journey.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then fraud perspective too. There's a lot of fraud going on right now. Well, there always was, but now I feel like it's more so than ever. That's another thing. Like when you're starting out, you're thinking about, hey, this is the product, this is the outcome, but there are all these other things that are happening on the back end that you really have to have an advisory board that's going to look out for you and make sure that you're protected and that your systems aren't vulnerable and that your accounts and everything you work so hard on getting financing isn't going to get compromised.
Okay. All right. That's really cool. I didn't know that system. You guys had that system in place, and I can see where that running through a bank could definitely help identify your effectiveness, your efficiency, and again, the people who will do your business harm. Yeah. Coming back, I'm really curious about when the business is trying to triangulate between the loan, the business plan, and the relationship manager. What are some of the challenges you often see in, any of these industries when they're trying to get all that aligned? What are the biggest bottlenecks you see them run into?
Yeah, to be quite honest with you, this seems like it's going to be too hard. A lot of paperwork. I don't know if I really want to go through with it. I'm going to look for another option, maybe investors, where then it's taking, a little bit out of their own pocket to add on shareholders. I see a lot of people going that route because they don't have time. They don't give themselves enough grace, I think, really, truly, because, if you have to set the expectation and kind of stick to it. So you have to have, I'm very transparent with my clients, and I ask, hey, what's your deadline? For example, the gentleman I used earlier, what's your target? I want to be open by XYZ. Okay, so these are the steps that you're going to take. Let's commit to, can we talk every Tuesday to do a touch base for about 30 minutes on a Teams call to see if you have done this for me and if you have done that, so we can get things aligned. People just don't give themselves enough grace they get so boggled down on the day-to-day and pulling paperwork together. This is why you have to really have an advisory board and have somebody that's going to, your partners talk to each other. So I'll have a customer and I'll say, hey, just connect with your CPA. I know you don't have time. Give me permission to talk to them. I'll work with them on what I need.
That's great. So you also kind of act as an accountability piece as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, they're moving forward. And okay.
You kind of have to. I mean, if you're giving me a target date and you're giving me permission, I'm going to stay on top of it.
We're going to get this done.
We're going to get done.
Oh, wow. Who usually writes the business plans?
The customers.
The customers, okay.
Well, yes.
Because I'm just thinking somebody coming in, barreling bourbon, they're like, business plan? I really just want to make my stuff.
The template is right there. I have done it to where you're telling me these things, right? I have no problem sitting there and doing it with you side by side. This is all words that are coming out of the customer's mouth, right? The client's mouth. This is their idea. This is their baby. I couldn't make it up if I wanted to. I have no problem hand-holding is what I should say.
There you go. Okay. There we go. I'm just thinking, I was like,
I know.
Put their shoes on just for a second.
Oh, 100%. I'm right there with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So if there was one thing they could do right now to improve their chances on creating that solid watertight business plan or identifying the right loan? What could they do right now?
Right now is start sooner than later, start gathering information together, look at your market, look at your industry, see what it's doing, get some insights. By the way, speaking of PNC being very tech savvy, we have access to industry insights. So I'm more than happy to share that, like what people in industry are seeing, and kind of think about things like that and start preparing for the financing piece. Also, good records, keep everything accessible and good paper trace. The SBA is going to want all their T's crossed and I's dotted. I've run into situations before where the loan is for a certain dollar amount, and for the personal injection part, the 10% down that we were talking about earlier, somebody made a cash deposit in their checking account. We can't trace that $1,000 if it's cash. If we can't see where it comes from, then I have to change the loan amount. So like literally just keeping good records, have it all black and white. Don't do anything else on your credit. Don't go buy a car or a house while you're in the middle of doing another loan. Just little small things to help you have better chances of getting financing.
Yeah, I should have asked this earlier, but what are some risks and objections when somebody looking for a loan comes to you with, and there usually really aren't risks or should be objections?
There shouldn't be some?
Well, no, what risks or, typical objections does a potential business owner come to you with when they're coming to, they're maybe a little shy on, like, I don't know if I need to do this. I'm having to, putting myself in debt to create this.
Yeah.
Where do you see a lot of those?
So I do see it a lot on the personal injection piece, actually, because a lot of times, a lot of people work very, very hard to save what they can, and putting that 10% down could really, take a dent in their savings account. So there's a lot of hesitation towards that. From the lending standpoint, it's a startup, the bank, the government. If we're there to believe in you, you got to believe in yourself too, and put some skin in the game. And that's where I see a lot of like hesitation. And then, as you start going down this loan path, and we are looking at a potential shortfall in collateral, the government's going to do what the government's going to do. They're going to try to place collateral anywhere that they can, right? So there may be times where people are asked to maybe get a life insurance policy, which is actually not a bad thing for the amount of the loan. God forbid something happened to them, that debt isn't out there on their partner's shoulder or whoever's shoulder, or even, potentially pledging some kind of personal assets as collateral could also be a little bit of a hesitation. But again, it goes back to, you're the business owner, you are the guarantor, you are everything. You're going to be repaying that debt, and you got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, the bank is not going to believe in itself. You got to put some skin in the game.
All right. Now I got a tough question for you, but I think you prepared for this, so we'll see. What is your favorite beverage, Romana?
Oh, I love gin and tonics.
Gin and tonics.
Yeah,
all right.
With lime.
With lime. All right.
To be specific.
With lime. It has to have the lime. All right. Well, that's great. And some people hem and haw on that one, but I think you came prepared. So now I know you don't have. We spoke earlier, and there wasn't much for like promotions, but you talked about a lot of resources you have. Mm-hmm. Where can people go find those resources?
Well, I say come to me first, and I'll be happy to make the introduction. Okay. Even if it's for these templates, like I'm more than happy to help people and even review some stuff with them. I've had people put together business plans and say, hey, can you just be my second set of eyes just based off of your experience in 15 years that you've been in banking? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah.
Come to me. I'll connect you with the right people. I'll give you a few names so, mm-hmm. You can interview folks for yourself and see who fits your personality the best.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I'll have her contact information in the show notes, and you can reach out to her if you want to learn more than what we covered here in this interview. Romana, this has been really, really great. I've learned a lot. I didn't know like how much. So it is a real balance of risk on both sides. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of believing in yourself to do this, give yourself time to get this done. Only you know your business plan the best. But if, you're not great at writing things, if you haven't written a dissertation in the last, since you were in college or high school. Romana will be here to happily help you and guide you. And it's good to know that. And then also just maintaining and building that relationship between the business and the bank, and growing that can also improve your chances of continuing loans and growing your business and scaling your business further. So again, this is great. Thanks a lot. I learned a lot, and I hope this is going to be beneficial for somebody listening today.
Well, thank you all. I appreciate it. I have fun.
Great to hear. All right. Again, thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to Harvest to Pour, the business of beverages with Matthew Shipp. Check the show notes for our guest contact information. And connect with Matthew Shipp on LinkedIn today.